Welcome to the closing keynote. Did everyone have a good Devoxx?
Yeah?
Thank you to the awesome people who organized all this stuff. So that was very nice. So we're doing a series of interviews with people. We have first up Trisha and Daniel, Trisha G and Daniel Bryant. Guys, want to come on up and you're all mic'd and all ready to go. This chair, I don't feel like a talk show host. I feel like I'm in Masterpiece Theater. This is so strange. Tell me about the recent film that you just made.
Excellent.
So, Keynote. You guys did your first Keynote ever.
Yeah.
How was that?
Terrifying.
It wasn't scary.
It was a little bit, especially because we didn't get much of a chance to practice together. Luckily, we were both in New York last week, so we could kind of like get together over.
We caught up, I think, in Hungary, wasn't it?
That's right.
Craft Conf, and sort of spun some ideas around, plenty of emails going backwards and forwards. But me being in London, you being in Seville, then we caught up in QCon New York last week, didn't we? And kind of like fleshed out some ideas, and it all come together, hopefully pretty well.
Did it go well?
Yeah. That's good enough. We didn't get booed off stage. That's
exactly.
fine.
Always a good sign. Yeah, always a good sign.
They had those people kicked out, so.
Thanks, David.
No, it's all right. So what was it like? I mean, you know, were you nervous? I'm assuming the answer is unbelievably yes.
It was I thought it was going to be my very first keynote here, but actually last week I got drafted into an emergency keynote at QCon London.
An emergency keynote?
I got told at 8:30 the night before I was going to be on the next morning doing the keynote. I was like, oh, well, that's not too much notice.
Yeah.
So that was terrifying. So that made this a lot more relaxing.
And me actually watching you, Trish, because it was with Todd, wasn't it? Todd Montgomery.
Yeah.
And I was sort of like watching Trish on the stage in New York, wasn't it? And I was thinking, like, next week, that's going to be us. And Trish was like strutting, doing her thing. I was like, great, if Trish is doing it, she can carry me. Brilliant, yeah. So it's all good. I know Trish can do a good job. Thanks. I know Trish can do a good job, it'd be fine. So that's kind of cool.
So how about the theme? I mean, so the concept of, you know, no ninjas and no rock stars, or basically we're all ninjas and rock stars.
Yeah, I actually wanted to call it the extraordinary team of ordinary developers, but I thought maybe that wouldn't go down very well. But I've never really thought of myself as a rock star or ninja or a 10x programmer or anything like that. I consider myself to be very, like, okay. And so I really kind of wanted to do the team theme to be like, you don't have to feel that you're awesome. You probably are all awesome. I should imagine so. But you don't have to feel awesome to be part of an awesome team.
I think no one likes to be kind of sort of normal, like we're saying. Normal and ordinary is kind of, we all aim, I think the mere fact we're all at a conference, we're aiming a bit higher, aren't we? And we're like, how as an individual, does that map to a team? Because like, we all know like high-performing teams like Netflix, Amazon, but most of our teams are actually really high-performing, typically, but it's kind of knowing how like we as an individual make a contribution to that. We were kind of like, yeah, really focused on that, I guess, weren't we?
And, you know, in your time, you know, in the last several years, how do you think that having individuals who are above others has, you know, maybe kind of destroyed the culture or maybe led it askew? Do you find that that's have you seen this before numerous times in your careers?
You can get both patterns, can't you? You can get outstanding individuals in a team, and that helps drag the whole team to better. And then sometimes you get people who think they're outstanding. They might even be outstanding, but don't play nicely with others. Yeah. And then that can kind of, you know, the rest of the team is really superfluous and just thinks, what's the point of this? And gets very, very demoralized. So it very much depends on, you know, having a fantastic programmer or a number of fantastic programmers doesn't necessarily mean those who aren't considered as fantastic are not necessary. It's the way those guys kind of encourage everyone that makes the team fantastic.
And it's working as a team is so different than working as an individual, isn't it? Like Trish and I were chatting quite a bit in New York about, we're quite sort of, as an industry, we can be a bit egotistical. We all like to think we're quite good programmers, don't
I'm
we?
too awesome to be egotistical.
Yeah, I'm the best at being egotistical.
I'm better than you.
No, I think not.
And the thing is, like, the individual skills, you can be a really good programmer, but these days, like we're seeing with Agile and Lean and DevOps, it's all about the big picture, isn't it? You know, We're all in the same boat, basically. We're all trying to deliver value for customers, trying to make everyone's life easier, trying to have fun. And the tricky thing is, what skills do you need to do that? And the skills we sort of found are actually quite different than technical skills.
Sure.
You can be like technically super, but perhaps not communicate. But one of the things we mentioned, Trish, like communication is really key.
Yeah.
Be it like verbal, be it like written down diagrams, and that you can be very much like awesome at what you do, but it's getting it across to others, getting
Sure.
buy-in, isn't it? Like it's really probably quite a foundational thing that we sort of talked about, didn't we?
Yeah.
What would you say are like essential elements that you need to have? Communication, obviously. How do you promote a better team cohesion? How do you make that?
Probably the most effective team I've worked on did pair programming every day. And pair programming is pretty intense, and not everyone wants to do it every day. But doing regular pair programming helps to create that shared vision that we talked about, helps to do the mentoring that we talked about as well. So that mentoring can be very formal or informal. And I definitely found that pair programming was, and also one of the reasons why I know how to power use IntelliJ now is through pair programming.
Okay.
Shortcuts.
Because you don't look that stuff up, you
Don't
get
all the
shown
shortcuts.
it. So for me, I think that pairing with someone, seeing how they work, helped me. But also this egotistical thing that we talked about, we also feel that some of that is down to a lack of security, because you spend a lot of time at the computer coding, and you could spend 10 years doing that and not know if you're actually any good or not, because you're only ever talking to the computer if you don't do code reviews or have people really know what you do. And pairing gave me a bit more confidence, because I'm like, well, these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses, and that this is kind of how I can improve, or this is what I give to the team. So I found that very valuable.
I totally agree, Trish. Like, actually, I've got to share my current client I'm working with, on the high street. They're doing some amazing work, and they pair all the time. And it's just really interesting to see. You've got to be perhaps a little bit extroverted. If you're an introvert, it can be challenging at times. But I think your argument, Trish, of not doing it every day is kind of key. But the benefits in terms of knowledge share, and whoever you're pairing with, be they more skilled than you or less skilled than you, I always learn something. Whether it's as simple as an IDE shortcut or as like complex as some new pattern. And like, I've been coding for quite a few years now, but like I always learn something. And that's super cool, isn't it? In terms of setting a foundation for like sharing that knowledge amongst the team. Sure. And I'm not like, rock star because I know all the shortcuts, but if I share those with the rest of the team, we all know the shortcuts, then that kind of cuts the craft. We're just doing cool techie stuff rather than going, what is that again? And
sure. So this is going to be a tricky question, but I mean, you may not have an answer. Remote people.
Yes.
How do you handle that?
Pair
programming across the globe.
Yeah, my last job, I was remote, and it was much more challenging because we weren't pairing. And I think the problem with remote is definitely more around time zones than location, because I've definitely seen a very effective remote team that are all in the same time zone. They're actually in the same city, but they don't have to be working in the same place to use their screen sharing, to do a bit of pair programming or code reviews, that sort of thing. That worked very, very well with trying to pair across those sort of like 5 hours, 6 hours, or 8 hours time difference. It's definitely the time difference that's a problem. So when you're doing remote, you have to embrace asynchronous communication.
Big time.
You have to you have to have the chat. Even if you're not online with the chat, you can see the conversations that have gone on. And you have to probably use code review more than pair programming. But you need to be able to get back together every now and again and do like screen sharing and show kind of your vision for the code, that sort of thing. It's definitely more challenging. I think you have to accept the sort of pros and cons with remote. And I think with remote, I think you pretty much all have to be remote or none, in my experience.
I agree.
Yeah, I've seen that as well. If you have one person who's remote and 9 people who are not, that's probably not going to work out so well.
Right.
Very much so.
Yeah. All right, so we have another person here, Sarah Saunders. Come on out, Sarah. So,
Thank you.
So Sarah's quite an interesting person. She's 15 years in the industry and worked across basically all the industries, it seems like, from banking to government finance and utilities. And I think you gave a talk this week. What was the title of that talk again?
Technical archaeology. So my selling point being that I'm old and I've seen it all, not necessarily learned anything from it, but my talk was a kind of look back on what have I seen change, and what have I learned, what have I kind of recognized that's been happening through time.
Yeah. And so I think in your talk you kind of mentioned a keyword or 2 keywords which really struck in my head, which is disposable technology.
This was the conclusion that I came to. So I was looking back over, how the archaeology has evolved. And I was trying to think of a kind of conclusion for my speech, like what am I going to say, what am I going to predict as the next big thing that's going to happen? And I realized that I can't. You know, if we look at what we were doing 5 years ago, and did we ever imagine the volumes of data that we see now? Probably not. So I thought, well, if I can't predict it, it's probably best to say, don't even try and design for it. Don't try and future-proof your applications, because your guesses of what's going to happen are probably going to be wrong. So just be prepared to throw it away. Probably a hard lesson for some people that, you know, have spent time crafting these codes. But at the end of the day, all that you've submitted is, you know, some lines of code on a screen. And it's not like you've built... This is one of my sort of themes. It's not like you've built a building. So this, when we call software architecture, we call it software architecture, engineering, these phrases that relate back to the world of mechanical and civil engineering, where if you'd built a church, you wouldn't want to throw it away because the effort involved in building it is so high, but it's just not the same with software. And so I wanted to get out of that analogy of civil and mechanical and go, it's going to be useless in 5-10 years. Just be prepared for that to happen.
What would you compare it to?
Or 5 months,
yeah. What would you think is a better comparison for kind of the software development cycle and the lifetime of software?
Yeah, what came to me was thinking more along the lines of television production, because, you know, if you're making a soap opera or something like that, that fits in a bit better with the process of software engineering. It's, you know, you made an episode of something 5 months ago. It doesn't mean you're not going to make another episode now. You've kind of shelved that one, but you're reusing all the elements of it. You're just maybe restructuring some of the character relationships. And if we thought of the way that we build software more like that, it'd be a better analogy for the disposals that we're going to have to make as we go forward. We can keep everything that we've learned, but we just restructure and reuse it. So I think it would be a better analogy, especially for clients as well, to explain what we're doing. Well, I just paid you a load of money to do stuff. Why do we have to keep doing it? Just see it as an ongoing process.
Mm-hmm. I can totally see the pitch. You could have like software Emmerdale, software extenders.
You can go on and on with this analogy. It works really well.
Hollyoaks. Oh my God, you know Hollyoaks?
Who's a director, you know.
How long do you think that would be the appropriate time for software to live? I mean, you know, we always try and think that we're building something that's going to last for 50 years or 20 years, but, you know, rarely any of us are going to see a Y to any problem. Our software's probably not going to live that long. How long do you think we should be thinking about?
I have a definite answer for that. It depends. But it links back to the evolutionary thing. That is what I was saying in my talk. That which survives, survives. Some things do really well. You know, things like Tomcat Container has been around for years and will continue to be because some of the elements of it are so very useful. But some things, you know, that we've tried, an example, again, I used in my talk was the siloed data, you know, desktop PCs. Didn't work out. So it really depends on the environment that we're in, what's happening. Some software will last for years, and some, as you say, a few months, best bet.
Yeah. Tricia, I wanted to ask you about your talk. So you gave Java 9 in Anger, which is an awesome title, by the way.
Java 8 in Anger.
Excuse me.
I would love to have done Java 8.
Yeah, I'm jumping the gun. Java 9 in super furious frustration.
Yes, I quite often get asked about the title because apparently it doesn't translate that well. So Java 8 in Anger. So Java 8 in practice, not Java 8 as in, oh God, this is awful, I hate it. No. So I really wanted to, I'd seen a bunch of stuff at conferences about lambdas and streams on slides, and you look at the syntax, but what does it really feel like to work with when, you know, how do you make those decisions around now would be a good time for a lambda, or now the power of streams will give me this? And that's kind of what I wanted to show, the sort of thought process of a developer creating an application.
Yeah, I mean, so we were in a panel together at Java 1, and it was like a Lambda Q&A, and I know I felt like an odd duck because both of us really didn't get the opportunity to use Java 8 a lot.
Right.
So clearly you've like progressed a lot in the last several months. Like, how did you tackle that? How are you able to get into Java 8?
Right, so and that's a very good point, because when we were on that panel, I remember thinking, I'm kind of tied to Java 6 for now. We were trying to be very Java 8 friendly in that if we pass interfaces into our APIs, then our users, if they are using Java 8, they can pass in lambdas, but we can't play with it. But that was actually one of the driving factors for creating this talk. I really wanted to create an application using Java 8 and see how it felt, like which bits felt fine, which bits felt weird, and which bits need you to change your brain. So not really related to, I didn't do this in order to create a new talk, but I did change companies, which helped me move from where I was to where I am. But yeah, I'm working in a company, so now I'm at JetBrains and I'm talking about IntelliJ and how IntelliJ can help you as a developer. Obviously, it makes sense to move towards newer language features so that you can see how the IDE will help you. And I think I believed as a developer before I joined JetBrains that with lambdas and streams in particular, it's quite tricky to get your head around some of that syntax and the way the generics work.
It's so terse. I mean, it's like look at these 7 lines of code that do everything you would have done in 30 lines of code before.
And all the types disappear as well because it's all inferred. So it's kind of, as a developer, it's a bit tricky to get your head around. So I found using IntelliJ super useful for that because it would do a lot of that work for me. So I create these anonymous inner classes. It goes, oh, I think you need a method reference. I'm like, great, you should do that.
Control F1.
Exactly.
Right, exactly.
So it's a kind of a confluence of two things. I really wanted to play with Java 8, and trying to show off some of the features of IntelliJ was really not difficult when it has fantastic support for Java 8. So my next thing is to try and get some Java 9 stuff.
Yeah.
See how that
That'd
goes.
be nice. So I know everyone says about Java 8, but what did you think you thought were the most really unique parts or most useful parts of Java 8?
I really like streams because I think streams are a great way to look sort of filter and sort your data. But at the moment, I haven't worked on any applications. I've had a big, broad career as well, but I haven't worked on any applications where we had massive collections in memory where you have to iterate over them. So I think that might allow us to change the way we design some of our applications. But I found that some of the things I found really interesting is trying to turn your head around to pass behavior into methods. And I found that really useful. I was creating these generic services, and instead of, in the past, I would have had some copy-paste stuff where I either inherited the whole class and then I'd have to override just the method, or I would copy and paste this whole method and all I'm changing is this bit here. But in actual fact, with lambdas, all you have to do is insert that bit. And that takes a bit of a brain flip if you've been doing pure Java and not using something like Groovy or something in the past.
Yeah. So we did want to actually, you have some special news. You are going to bring a new potential programmer into
I am extending the Java community the hard way.
You have a new release coming out in a few months, I hear?
Yes. There is Trish 2.1 in November.
2.1.
Awesome. So we did have a little present for you. Who has that? I
hope it's not the
sitting
beer
on.
because I can't drink the beer.
Okay. Oh, it's still in the package. Well, why don't you open it?
Thank you very much. This is completely unexpected.
Yes.
Children do always rebel against their parents, though, so you may have to bring them up as a Microsoft developer if you want them to go to Java.
How awful. And here was I worried I'd have to wear pink. Oh, how cute is that? That is...
Oh, wow.
So that's for the future Java champion.
That is fantastic. I hope it doesn't want to play a program in Microsoft.
Move that over.
So that's for the future Java champion. And I like your shirt. It says, I create my own minions. What's your superpower? I think that's a pretty awesome shirt.
Yesterday we saw in the keynote, I don't know if anyone spotted, Trish said, waiting for player 3. I didn't spot it until I was chatting to Simon Brown afterwards. I was like, oh yeah, I get it.
That's awesome. Okay. So I did have a question for you, Sarah. So how do you think that Agile has played a role or helps the concept of creating disposable software? Or, how do those relate? How do they come in together?
Well, yeah, just simply by the fact that at the end of each iteration, when you're working in an Agile way, you've got to create working code. That helps you to break it down and simplify what you're trying to do. We did a good project at Capgemini for the train line ticket site. And we just started with the basics. What do we actually want in this? Well, we want to get the money in. So let's start with the buy button and work backwards from there. And so we released a very simple site and then worked on from there. So at any point, if we'd have found that, for some reason, online sales was no longer the way to go, we'd have been throwing away the minimum. And the Agile way that you work helps with that. And you tend to start an Agile project with prototyping as well, which gets you in the mood for, keep the concepts in mind, but don't get obsessed over the artifact that you're building. So, yeah, I think Agile is a very important way of of building that.
So I know that you've done a lot of work with government, and they tell me that you did some agile work with government, and I just kind of want to know, isn't that an oxymoron?
So we met the clients once. They came down and they said, yes, we've been working in an agile way. We have iteratively worked over these requirements for 6 months. There you go. See you in a year. They cleared off. Wait, that wasn't that. Oh, forget it.
Josh wants to chime in. There's a microphone.
It reminds me of the half-arsed Agile Manifesto.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
So they iteratively design the requirements, and then they iteratively passed them to the business analysts, and they iteratively implemented, and they iteratively tested them, and then they delivered them.
I'm afraid so.
Yeah,
So,
well.
back to the drawing board with explaining Agile to them. Yeah.
Well, that just means we need people like you to come out and keep talking. So.
I'll try.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Sarah. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So we have. So Daniel, you gave a talk that was rather interesting. Can you give the title of that?
Yeah, you and I actually competed, David, didn't we? It was head to head at the same
time.
time.
Yeah. I don't know who won.
JavaEE game changer. No, we'll have to check with the stats, don't we? But my talk was the 7 deadly sins of microservices. So everyone knows the 7 deadly sins, hopefully. And I related each one, like Lust, for example, is using the latest and greatest tech. So I think, as techies, the business problems are a bit boring. We like something shiny, don't we? So we pull in, some new technology, a bit of Go, a bit of Docker, and they're amazing technologies. But I'm sure Patrick would actually like to probably chip into the Docker thing. But as in, they're amazing technologies, but there's certain use cases for them, I guess. And I was trying to sort of say, look, these are some of the anti-patterns I see when I go into client sites and they're using microservices. So try and put them out there. And I've got some great feedback actually. Really thank everyone for some great sort of points and questions they raised. And people sort of said, yes, I want to see more of this. As in, what's going wrong with microservices, because we hear so much good stuff. It's nice to balance up, I think, with the reality of the.
No, I don't think that's important.
I
think it's only important to talk about how awesome it is.
Is that? Oh, yeah.
Because that's what sells more stuff.
Oh, maybe. Docker is awesome. Woo! No, Docker is awesome.
So what are give me one more 7 deadly sin that you think was.
I had pride. Pride was that testing in the world of transients, because microservices both at a runtime level, things are coming and going all the time, and definitely at a development level. Kind of to Sarah's point, actually, in terms of some people are saying with microservices it's build to make them disposable.
Yep.
Don't know if I fully buy into that yet, but I'm definitely getting. I get the disposable sort of metaphor, and I really like Sarah's talk. Actually, Sarah's talk was. If you haven't seen Sarah's talk, check it out on Parlays because it's a really good talk. And that notion of disposability, but it creates massive challenges for testing, because no longer have you got one thing and you kind of poke it and something drops out. You've got all these little things going on. You poke something over here, something drops out over there, and it's just like whoa.
Butterfly effect in the cloud.
Emergent behavior, love it. Butterfly effect is key. And reasoning about that as a developer is hard enough, let alone someone who's perhaps not built the system, like QA or ops. So these, pride is, you've got to let go of the pride. Work to Trish and I's point with the keynote presentation, it's like shared understanding, working as a team. You are always, there for the same goal. So don't just chuck stuff over the wall to QA or chuck it over to ops or whatever. Try and see the whole thing through.
Yeah. So let's bring Josh out. Josh Long, everyone knows Josh Long.
Can I get a Devoxx? Okay, everyone.
Doing a selfie.
Devoxx. I'm going to make it a thing. You just watch. Cheers.
So, Dan, do you use technology like Spring Boot in your microservices?
I do, indeed. No, actually, this might be controversial, Josh, but I pitched earlier on.
Imagine.
Wait a minute. Josh, I really thought I was bringing you out for success. Sorry, dude.
Not again.
Bring me down. So I pitched on my talk. There's a guy from Etsy, Dan McKinley, I think it was, said, choose boring technology. In terms of stuff. And I said actually Java and Spring are kind of boring. In a good way though, yeah?
Absolutely.
As in because we're comfortable with them. Why bring in Go, Go is amazing for the right use case, but if you're comfortable with Java and Spring, and dare I say it, Java 8 and Spring Boot is we would actually, the current project, we're not on the high street, we're using both those techs, and it's freaking amazing. Lambda, streams,
Java
Spring
8 for the
Boot.
win, man.
It's
it's going to be big.
Cool.
I have a theory about this Java thing. It's going to take off.
That's a good theory.
People are going to like it.
I think it's got another 2 years in it at least. Don't you agree?
This is a winner. Oh yeah.
This is the pivotal moment for Java.
Hey! I see what you did there.
Yeah.
I see what you did there.
So word has it you flew 75,000 miles in the last 3 months.
2.5. Yeah, it's been a
2.5.
Yeah, well, since what month are we now? I guess maybe 2 months.
Exactly.
End of March. So
Yeah, you don't know what day it is, do you?
not really.
Yeah.
Shut up.
It's one thing when you have different time zones. It's another when you've got no idea what day.
Yeah, I
it
have
is.
the
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the permanent state of jet lag.
I'm sure you know the same. Do you ever
right.
have that moment where you check Trip It? It's like, oh well.
You know when you're boarding. That's it.
Yeah.
Do you know what Tripper was telling me?
Hold on, guys. You're talking about jet lag.
Yeah.
You, me, all, we all travel extensive distance.
Yeah.
Well, one thing we are forgetting, which is sort of a epic moment here, something common. Josh, Trisha, and David. There are 4 Java champions on the stage right now.
Oh, yeah.
And of those, David and Josh have recently become Java champions.
Yeah.
And we have a 5th one happening
Oh, yeah.
right now.
Yeah, exactly.
So what I would like to do is I would like to take this moment, and I'm going to congratulate you.
Thank you, brother.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. And congratulations to you,
thank
too.
you very much, Arun.
Well, just a friendly handshake won't cut it, so I'm going to give you a jacket as well.
Oh.
Nice. These jackets are awesome. But the girls' ones are better because they're blue.
Thank you very much. It's working.
Thank you so much.
And I didn't realize you were going to be here. So what we're going to do is, in our sense,
Wait, can I take a photo with me?
we're going to flip
Yeah.
right here.
Oh, Devoxx, come on, man.
Oh, we're going to do another.
So we're going to
another
flip
Devoxx.
here, and we're going to take a picture of,
Oh, yeah.
we're going to take a picture of 4.5 Java champions on the stage now.
It's like two.
Bus factor of 5.
It's like 2.5 men. You're definitely Charlie.
Uh-oh. Doesn't bode well for my career. Let's see.
I might have flipped the sizes, so look at the sizes that way.
You calling me web scale?
One selfie. I'm going to take that one.
Okay.
Do you want me to go here?
Yeah, come here. Put your thing on. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
It doesn't really fit.
That might take a few months.
Let's put it here.
It doesn't quite fit now.
All right.
Okay, Devoxx, let's make this happen.
Your arm's not long enough.
We got to squish in.
How does the audience like our rear ends?
Awesome.
All right, we got it. Excellent.
Thank you.
Well, once again, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, brother. Thanks, buddy.
Congratulations once again.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll see how long before I get really, really hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 75 miles, we did some research, is apparently three times around the world that you've flown, which is basically an average of 1 time around the world per month, which is kind of crazy.
It's okay. The world is really small and awesome. And united by Java, man.
Yeah.
United by Java. No matter
I
where
have
you
to
go.
say, I follow the cities. I know when I'm in a Josh city because there'll be someone who go, oh, Josh Long is so awesome. And they'll always pull a picture out of their phone where you and them did a selfie together. I've seen so many people show me pictures of you. That's really awesome. You're really good to get Java champion. I think you're...
Thank you, brother. You
Yeah.
do the same, of course. Obviously, you're a hero. And I liked you more when people used to confuse. I guess I must have gained weight or something. They used to confuse us.
It's the beard.
Yeah, the beard.
I'm
the
just
ugly.
not hyper enough.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know, man. Anyway, congratulations. You well deserved, of course. I was surprised when I found out that you were. I was surprised when I found out you weren't already. That's.
Well, you as well. I mean, you know. Yeah. Okay.
Mind blowing.
So they want me to ask the question, is JavaEE dead?
I haven't the foggiest. Nobody tells me things.
Yeah.
Haven't
Nobody
gotten them.
tells me either.
Yeah, I'm waiting for
I
a
keep
memo
going to
or
work every
something.
day and everybody's still
Yeah.
there.
So,
I don't know.
I
Who
think
wants wants to take that
Well, as
one?
long as there's enterprises, there's always been JavaEE, isn't
Yeah.
it? But actually, to be fair, I mean, in my Java 8 demo, actually, I'm using WebSockets. So that's like an EE technology. And I've got embedded Jetty and stuff, so I
That's
think...
not EE.
I think that when I
And
go
when
like,
you use JAX REST, it's not EE. When you use JPA, it's not EE. And when you use...
But it's part of the spec,
oh, I'm
though.
joking. I'm being totally sarcastic.
and I was like, wow.
He was so English about his sarcasm,
I know,
I didn't see it.
I've been practicing.
it's
Since
quite
I got
funny,
off the plane, they gave me a crash course. in it.
There's a guidebook at Heathrow.
Yeah,
How to
English
sarcasm.
humor.
exactly.
101.
No, I think that we're definitely seeing, when I go and chat to people like part of the JSR, the Dr. JSR stuff I do with Marnie and stuff, we definitely see people that are still really invested, like Tricia, people, enterprises, like they really want to buy into stuff that's going to be around for a long time. So I think like the spec-driven stuff, like they really appreciate, and they like getting involved as well. Part of the JCP stuff now, it's open. So I think JavaEE's got some legs. I think, I love Spring Boot. I'm a massive Spring Boot fan. But the TomEE stuff is really cool, and like the stuff we were seeing last night in the VJug, like being able to log in via SSH to your JavaEE app, kind of like the Crash shell with Spring. I was like, this is awesome. Yeah. And you're doing some like live stuff with like blocking out users there, weren't you, and adding your own message-driven beans, for example, that could be exposed via a shell, which you can log in like SSH, standard SSH, log into your app, and then do cool stuff. So I was like, that is really interesting.
Well, so speaking of standards, you both are in the London Java community, and you're on the EC, the JCP Executive Committee that basically gives the high ivory tower approval of specifications going in and going out. So what has that experience been like? For us mere mortals that just simply are on the ground.
I can see Patrick actually nodding, like, looking at us now. Patrick's like, the JCP is sort of like, answer well.
Yes, exactly. Don't let us down.
Or you won't be allowed back.
Exactly. No, you are being recorded.
I found it super interesting because when I was much more actively involved, I was in a project where we're using Java daily to do interesting financial market, super fast stuff. And you think you're like cutting edge of Java and you know everything there is to know about Java. And then you do the spec stuff and there's like whole swathes of stuff you know nothing about. And it's really, really interesting to go, there's the whole area that's being used, especially because we weren't using any JavaEE stuff. So interesting to see the changes in JavaEE.
It's come a long way, hasn't it? Yeah.
So I found it really interesting and quite overwhelming because there's lots of specs and lots of different things to stay ahead of.
Yeah, I saw the university days that were happening on Wednesday. They were very good, and I misheard one thing. I thought I heard Docker JSR, and it was Adopt JSR. I almost had a heart attack. I was like, not everything has to have a JSR for it. No. And so we have actually Patrick Shinazin here who works for Docker. So thank you, Tricia and Patrick, if you want to come out.
Sorry,
it's the Patrick.
Yeah, well, I mean, so, is Docker JSR a good idea? Would that be jumping the shark?
It's interesting, though, because like
I made a U.S. television show reference, so that's like me trying to get Graham Norton, I guess. That was Happy Days, for those of you who don't know. But
we watched that growing up as kids.
Okay, awesome.
I think they get it. It's weird. Yeah, I never understood the headset thing.
For the Docker JSR, you should ask Arun.
Yeah.
I want a Kubernetes JSR, man.
Okay.
It's interesting, though, because like, a lot of the, for example, there is a image spec, Docker image spec, and there is like Rocket, CoreOS, the app-C spec. So there is kind of specification going on around like the container world, Patrick, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. So if you look in the Docker open source project on GitHub, there's one place where the image is specified.
I've read it through.
Yeah, and then there's, in Rocket, they have created a specification as well. I'd say the specification process for Docker and containers in general is a little bit less advanced than in the Java world, because we don't have like 20 years of experience, just 2 years.
To be fair, that's one thing where the JCP really does excel, as in like we've learned so much over the last like 20 or so years. So it is incredible. I think a lot of other people, like the PHP people and other people, were looking towards the JCP as a kind of guiding light, and then they realized the value of specs. So I think if we like share ideas in terms of like really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually one other thing I wanted to about specs, to talk about specs.
Yeah.
You were saying boring for JavaEE. To me,
I did say that.
To me, you specify what is boring.
Of course.
And there's a good boring, which is the stable stuff that your operations can put in production and all that.
Yeah.
And to me, specifications are not for innovation. They're really for standardizing what everybody can agree on. And then you do the innovation on top of that.
I agree.
When is TCP going to get innovative, huh? Is it going to get left behind?
Have you seen Aaron?
Aaron, that's cool.
So I did want to point out one thing. So you've worked basically everywhere, as far as I understand it.
Not Amazon, I think.
Yeah, you're right. So,
Sun, eBay.
So basically, you've come up through like even Accenture, and then Sun, and Google, and Microsoft.
You forgot one.
eBay?
You forgot one.
eBay? Which one?
VMware.
VMware. Okay, yeah. So
Yeah,
basically,
we work together.
Yeah, we work together there.
are you like a professional spy?
I'd say I'm a professional learner. I really like to learn a lot.
Yeah. Are you just like trading secrets? You know, like
Each of these companies taught
I
me
will work
something.
for you for 1 year, and you will get all the information.
Actually, I worked with Josh for what, like 18 months?
Yeah, it was
You were his
one of the
boss,
best 18 months
I learned
had,
Spring.
right?
That was good.
Well, actually, wait, to be fair, he's written more since he left.
That's right.
Yeah,
Then there.
yeah,
Yeah,
So
'cause,
you were Josh's boss?
yep. Poor bastard.
yeah, I was his boss's boss, but I
Oh,
mean,
that's
no one
my
can.
condolences.
No one can manage Josh anymore.
Yeah, that's
We bounced around India.
You
ate amazing
just
food.
feel lucky when he works in your team. That's
yeah,
what I get.
yeah.
You want him
So
on your
checks in the
team,
mail.
not against you, yeah?
Yeah.
So now you're at Docker for how long now?
For 3 months,
Uh-huh.
so I'm an old timer there.
Yeah.
We're a 130 people company.
Wow. So you train in the new people.
Yeah, exactly.
That's 100.
The day I joined, like 1 week later, we had a meeting with the CEO with 30 of us. And he took us in the room and he said, "Oh, you're all the people who started since January. So like in the past 3 months, like 1/4 of the company. It's,
Oh, my.
It's pretty exciting to be in a growing entity like that.
So in the microservices type of, everyone's saying microservices. Can you describe microservices without using any buzzwords?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
What's a buzzword? Wait.
Okay, so
What
let's
about
remove
Something that might get your session approved at a conference. If you used it in the title.
So I'd say, never mind the bollocks, split out your application.
Okay. And,
Does that
all
work?
right. It's 2 sentences.
No buzzword. No, I'd say it's really about separating out pieces from that you would put into a single entity, into several different processes, so that you can develop them in parallel and scale them in parallel. So there's a development complexity aspect where to manage complexity, it's always about splitting things into smaller pieces that are more manageable and where more people can collaborate on it. And then there's the operational aspect where you can scale them independently, which is really convenient there.
Yeah. Do you find it's difficult? I mean, how small is too small?
Yeah,
Nano service.
and to that-
Is it reusable?
Nano service like too far?
No, so that there, I think that's a really interesting question where we're really experimenting with this new microservice trend. I've seen a great post by Martin Fowler the other day where he was talking about we should start with a monolith and then we break it down when we understand what can be brought down. I think we don't know where the limit is right now. Everybody's experimenting. Docker is only like 2 years old. People have started adopting it in the last 12 months. And I've seen, first, I've never seen an adoption like that. On the other hand, I've never seen such a lack of content or agreed upon design patterns on something that was adopted so fast. So because of that, I think there's still lots of things to be discovered about what the right level of granularity is for building microservices. On the other hand, I think it will, as usual, the answer will be it depends.
Yeah.
And there will be use cases and constraints, and patterns is all about finding the constraints and seeing what fits into these.
Do you think that there's a risk of creating spaghetti, like there's spaghetti code?
Yeah.
Is there a risk of spaghetti architecture?
Yeah, definitely.
And how the heck do you see what's going on at the 10,000-foot view when you've got thousands of everything running around?
So
I mean, that's like a kindergarten class with 1,000 5-year-olds just finger painting on the wall. Like, how do you control all that?
Microservices, to me, are a reflection of business and organizational structure. They should mirror the goals of the business, independent functions of the organization that they serve. And if your organization is spaghetti...
they shouldn't model each individual person in the business?
No, not yet, no.
Is that too far?
People barely serve to model the people that are in the business. But software, I think in a microservice, that should reflect the organizational goals, right? The organizational sort of
domain-driven
structure.
design stuff, Josh. You think like bounded context? That kind
Right,
of thing?
well, that and Conway's Law. I mean, very much.
Yeah.
So if you have a spaghetti organization, naturally, what will fall out of that, a knock-on effect, is you'll have spaghetti architecture. But sometimes you really do have a very complex business. And either way, I'd prefer to have that all separated and independently evolutionary and deployable than to have it all teased in one giant monolithic thing, you know? So you're going to have, if you have two teams that don't communicate, of course the APIs are going to be a reflection of that.
All right, well, so we're going to say thank you to Daniel, and we're going to bring out Amy Nicholson.
Well done, sir.
Cheers, Josh.
Cheers.
All right.
I'm scared of her. She's really smart.
Yeah. So Amy Nicholson is, she works at Microsoft, and she does machine learning, which I think is very interesting.
Yeah.
So as soon as she gets her mic and sits down, that will be pretty interesting.
So where did you go after VMware, Shanazon? Patrick?
At Microsoft.
Oh.
Yeah.
Small.
So now I'm bringing out one of your other former coworkers.
Bring them in.
Yeah, exactly.
The more the merrier, man.
And yeah, this is the half of the room that you didn't work with, and that's the half of the room that you did work with.
Hey, first, who has done machine learning in their company? In there.
Ow, that hurt.
I've done a little bit. Okay, not
There's
that
a
many.
few hands there.
So what is, like, in layman's term, what is machine learning? Is this like teaching your toaster to do tricks, to roll over or something like that?
Yeah, well, I guess that's a kind of IoT connection to it. IoT and machine learning do kind of come hand in hand, which is nice. We kind of go with, at Microsoft, machine learning is where computer systems become smarter with experience. Experience being data and also our input, our human input. So I would say it's all about now it coming to surface because we have enough compute and enough storage for all this data to actually feed our models this data and make them really powerful and understand patterns. It's an interesting one. It's a widely used term. You were talking about buzzwords with these guys. Machine learning, I wouldn't call it a buzzword because it's not like...
Because it's two words.
Because it's 2 words, and that, yeah, I guess. But I would say it's just a widely used term, but it's misunderstood quite a lot. I think everyone's kind of going, oh, if I have big data, therefore I do machine learning. So let's take all this, all our systems make loads of data. Let's just throw it in an algorithm, and it'll predict the future for us. It's not really how it works. It's the best way is to come with a really posed question of what you want to ask of your data, and hopefully the machine can start to learn how to answer that question for you.
Well, give us like a really concrete now example of like machine learning.
Okay, so there's lots going on with sort of sentiment analysis. I'm sure, guys, everyone's heard of sort of, whether a piece of text is positive or negative.
Right.
So in my academic career, I tried to actually predict the outcome of the X Factor as my final year project. So
did you watch that show a lot?
I have. I'm kind of guilty. I watch it quite a lot. But yeah, I basically took tweets from Twitter all about the X Factor. I pulled them into machine learning. I did lots of different models. Did a lot of research on how much data you need to do machine learning. And then I basically tried to rank each contestant against each other.
And how'd you do?
So in the final rounds, it did really well. There was enough data for people to be tweeting about the contestants. Towards the end, so when there's sort of 10 contestants right at the start, it was very hard because some people didn't always get tweeted about, and it wasn't then about sort of positive or negative. It was kind of about whether they were relevant or not, and that's another sort of problem within search engines. What's relevance, not just what's ranking.
So do you find like the data itself has a big impact on what can be learned? And I mean, like, is there a point that there's too much data? Because I understand that these things learn and they ramp up, but is it infinite?
Yeah, no, so I did a little bit of that in my research as well, and I think it's an interesting one. There's something called overfitting of data. So if you can have a fantastic data set, and you can have like millions and petabytes of data even, and you can pass it to a model. But if you think of it on sort of a graph even, where you've got the amount of training data and actually how accurate your classifier will be, it'll peak up. The more data you pass it, it'll learn more and more patterns. But you'll hit sort of a peak. And then the minute it might even start to downturn or sort of flatline at that point because it will pick lots of patterns, but then your
You get like false positives.
Yeah, your algorithm's almost
Everything starts to look the same.
Too strict, yeah.
Is this like an existential crisis for computers?
I'm not sure.
What is the meaning of meaning?
I know.
Is that a sports article or a political article? I don't know.
Just a recursive problem
anyway.
And then it blows up or something. I don't know. But yeah, no, it's it'll just start to get too many patterns. It'll learn too much almost, and it won't be generic enough. So when someone from the outside world passes it dirty data, if you want to call it that, in an awful form, and it's not ready for the classifier will be like, oh, I'm not sure what to do with this. I'll just classify it as this, and it'll be wrong because it's looking for that exact pattern. So that's called overfitting.
So one of the things that you talked about is explorative versus exploitive. What is that?
So this is in one piece of, this is back in academic as well. I did some stuff in reinforcement learning. It's sort of another branch of machine learning. And I tried to get it was an analogy of a mouse trying to get to a piece of cheese in a maze. And you had to sort of let it learn for itself. So I spoke about sort of human input. So if we have data, we also need us guys to say, yeah, that's the right answer. So that's called supervised learning. In reinforcement learning, it's kind of unsupervised. So the model actually learns for itself. It starts tweaking. So it goes, oh no, I took these moves and that didn't really work. So the next time when it goes in, it should be able to get to the middle quicker. And there's this trade-off between...
Like genetic algorithms, things like this?
Yeah. So it's like this trade-off between exploration and exploitation. So it's like, do you take the direct path you took before, or do you actually take this sort of sidestep, look for another sort of route, and there might actually be sort of a shortcut if you take that exploratory phase.
So basically you're saying that at first they will just have to explore because they don't know how to solve the puzzle.
Yeah, they don't know at all how to solve.
And then after a while they just continue to do the same thing over and over again?
Yeah, because they'll remember that
patterns or
path.
frequencies?
Sounds like
patterns,
human beings.
Yeah. So
I work with some people like that.
I know we were talking about that.
So machine learning sounds like always like fancy stuff. I mean, like, I totally get that, like, Google does machine learning when they want to recommend certain things, and Facebook does it for matching faces.
Yeah, and photos.
Like,
and
when is this going to be available to, like, mere mortals? Like, when can we actually just add this to our apps?
Yeah.
Like, when is that going to happen?
Well, for those who came to my talk yesterday, they've already seen the future. They're there. No,
oh, really?
Yeah. So I think it's right now. We have, especially with the cloud now, we have enough compute, we have enough storage to be able to actually run these really intense algorithms. But also there's lots of different businesses, including Microsoft, building sort of tools that can help anyone start to get into machine learning and build models. We will always need data scientists. There are some extremely, hardcore research questions that need to be solved, and there's, hard problems. But for the sort of simple stuff, recommender, sentiment analysis, text analytics, it's actually being now available to developers. And I think that's fantastic. Adding smarts to your applications, adding some intelligence, and being able to call it from APIs and stuff like that. It's just brilliant, and you can build it in so easily and quickly.
So basically, like when the Terminator happens and Skynet actually goes up in the air, you're to blame. Is that it?
No. This is just please don't blame me.
Yeah, okay.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah, what a bad name.
Skynet.
So, are we going to need developers anymore?
Someone asked me this earlier actually, and personally, this is my personal opinion. I think machine learning is a helping hand for us. It's like an assistant almost, but a very powerful one. It can help. It can predict stuff, and that's almost like a recommendation, if you want to call it that. That's like the machine thinks it could be this. There will always be outliers that it can't. Well, there might always be outliers that it can't predict, and then sometimes human input is key. We understand, we have semantic understanding and we have contextual understanding. I think we talked about sort of sarcasm. You did a really, really good sort of trick with your sarcasm then. I didn't even get that one.
What are you talking about?
Exactly. And, and that's really hard in text analytics to actually pick up sarcasm unless you know the context of the discussion before it. So I think humans will always need to be there. We'll always need to have that grey area in the middle where it can't really predict for us, and it can't.
So I guess the real question for me is, when is Siri going to work? How far away from that?
When is Siri going to work? Well, she works for Microsoft, not Apple. So
don't you
she's
Siri
say
use
never.
Cortana?
Naturally, Cortana, of course.
Cortana's she's great
She
fun.
needs to change her name.
And then, how do you see people deploying these kinds of solutions? When at Pivotal, we have a data sciences team, and they're doing a lot of cool stuff. And
Absolutely.
I know that we have a lot of the work we're doing is around giant. It's IoT. IoT is often driving these machine learning projects. So sensor networks in Singapore, for example, driving traffic, feed into this big data platform, and then of course from that you have machine learning, and a lot of that isn't even particularly. We have data scientists, but they're there just to kick it off. It's stuff that is pretty sample. These are not magic tricks anymore.
No, I was going to say it's not like smoke and mirrors and stuff like that. It's in IoT. It's a fantastic example of using machine learning, being able to get all this data from sort of all these different devices. You can pull it all together, all these different sources, and infer some really great stuff. It's kind of the collection of data that you can get some really great sort of examples out of.
And so are you deploying this on top of something like a Hadoop or a Yarn, or is it a Spark, or
is it Cloud Foundry?
Well, doubt it.
So Azure machine learning.
Yeah.
It's a built-in service in Azure.
Oh, good
answer. So
good answer.
It's in the cloud. So Azure machine learning sits there. You can do all your work in there. You might do a little bit of Hadoop before that, prepare your data, pull it in there. You build it into a web service. You can consume it. Anything that consumes REST API can consume this prediction sort of thing. You can just build it into an app.
I can consume REST. Just to work.
Yeah, so you could then call a prediction from that. So if you think about it in any language, most languages, so you can call a REST API. So I actually did an example in my session with a Java file, sort of .exe file, and I was a little bit I haven't done Java for a while, so that was exciting.
Well, that's an interesting point. So how old are you?
I'm 23 still.
23?
Yeah.
So how long have you been at Microsoft?
I've been at Microsoft for about 10 months now.
10 months, and you're going around being an evangelist on machine learning and doing an awesome job at it, obviously.
Thank
when
you
I grow up,
very
I want to
much.
be like you.
How did you get into this? What made you want to do this? Like, a lot of people wake up every day, and you woke up and said, oh, machine learning.
So as a young kid, I was always into things like Lego and computer games, and I had an older brother, so it was really easy to get access to that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And actually, it was. I went and I did IT and maths, and I had a fantastic IT teacher who was so interesting. He used to tell us sort of a great technology news story at the start of every lesson, and I was like, I really enjoy this. So then I kind of went on a whim, and I was just like, I'm going to do computer science at university. I'd never coded, turned up at university, I was like, I'm going to do a computer science degree. People were looking at me like, why is she
here?
Doing? Yeah. And then,
here's your Barbie, stop.
Are you in the right place? That kind of
exactly.
thing. And so I carried on. I learned some really fantastic stuff, and I actually got an internship at Microsoft for a year, halfway through my degree, and I worked at Bing, Microsoft search engine. So obviously the heart of search engines is machine learning, and just seeing the fantastic stuff and the intelligent people that were working there, it was unbelievable, and it kind of piqued my passion for it.
And you said you had a really good professor that sort of tipped you into that direction. How did that person play a role in your life?
I was going to say, I should probably email him and be a bit more like, this is what I'm up to now. I think he just sort of brought it out in me. He just gave me sort of this little beacon. He was like, he said to me, I think you should go and do computer science. I think you have the right sort of mentality. I think you enjoy everything we talk about. You have something to add to the conversation. So he was like, it seems to be something you're super interested in. Just go and do it. You'll be able to do it, sort of thing. So he believed in me, which was great. And then I found myself I'm actually on the graduate scheme at Microsoft. So it's called the Max scheme. Yeah. And 10 months in, and I'm really enjoying it.
That's really fantastic. So thanks everybody for attending. You're all an inspiration for being here and showing up and inspiring people. I say keep doing it, and thank you for being great role models, each and every single one of you, for everyone here. And I hope people in the audience decide to submit sessions next year and take the brave choice and come up. So thank you, everybody. And we're going to pass it back to Mark to do a wrap-up. And thank you very much.
Well done. Did we leave? I don't know.
Everyone, it's 6:30. It's Friday night. I'm sure you've all got places to go to. Thank you so much for sticking around. I hope you've had a fantastic 2-3 days, however long you've been in. I'd just like to say thank you again to all of the crew, all of the sponsors, all of the speakers, everyone that came up and did this today, and all of you, because it's you that makes Devoxx in the UK feel so damn good. Cheers.